Well, good morning, everybody. 7th of May, 2025 at 7:15 in the morning. And I guess I got to start mentioning temperatures again. Well, they said it was going to be getting cold, and I look outside, and of course there's ice on some of the cars, frozen on there. I went out there and scratched a little bit with my fingers to make sure that I'm not just seeing things. And yet my cell phone temperature gauge, I don't even know where it's read from. It says 13 degrees. 13 degrees Celsius. It's definitely not 13 degrees Celsius. If anything, it might be minus. So I don't know. That's a real far-fetched. It sounds like Zelensky. Maybe Zelensky's the one that's putting the temperatures on there, or Donald Trump. We have the warmest temperatures in the world on this day. Look at these hands. I don't know. So I don't know. Well, I guess the British, what would they say about Donald Trump? I don't know. I don't know if we have that expression in the United States, but they would say he's full of himself. So again, he wrote another tweet and said it was America that defeated the Nazis and no one else, and that America, what was it, November 11th, they're the ones that won World War I and World War II as well. And well, I studied history, and I find that era interesting, even though I really never took a class about history of that time period. Mine was mostly history like around the 30 Years' War in Germany, the Great Elector of Brandenburg, in Prussia, and all that sort of thing back in those days. And not, we don't really get so much history. They don't go out and teach you Russian history or a lot of types of history in the United States. Mostly they center around the United States, and a lot of that, of course, is real fake history anyway. They don't tell you a lot of the real truths about it. And well, I'm going to be talking not about history today, but a lot of, like usual, a lot of the fake stuff that goes on. And I think Donald Trump's regime, if that's what you want to call it, they're kind of getting tired of going around and putting out fires and trying to stamp out all the fake news coming out of the Democrats and CNN and all of those kind of places. But I guess they keep on doing it because it just becomes a really, really huge task. And there are like fake military analysts. I don't know, would you call them fake? People that put out a bunch of fake stuff. I guess there's this guy, I think he was on I think his name is Keane, some general, and I think he talks with CNN, and no, that's Ben Hodges. So this Keane guy, I think he's also kind of puts out a lot of fake stuff. So I don't know. I might have written that down or not. I was looking at some news, and there's just so much fake stuff. I can't report on everything. I would be here talking for hours, and a lot of that, it doesn't really have much of any impact on any of our lives anyway. So, there's a lot of people today. I guess maybe it's because it's Tuesday, so I was thinking there'd be nobody walking around. I can go on the regular road over there, and there's far less people. I don't want to. I wanted to go here where there's less people. So maybe I'll go where there is less people on the road, But it's as you can see, the frost here on a lot of this. I really should come out here with my supposedly good camera and take some macro shots. I got a nice macro lens. It's not out of focus. My camera, you get these expensive cameras and you got to set everything, and it's like there's these like DSLR things, and like a lot of them, like the one that I have, and I didn't know, but you got to sit there and go through a whole bunch of buttons and pushing buttons all day long, and you got to set everything. You don't want to really leave it on automatic because can't get some certain effects that you want, and it's turning out to be that it's just far better to get stuff that's automatic. If you look at some of these things, I used to have a Minolta 6XI where they had switches on the outside, so you can just switch to something really fast, and you can set these settings really well. And I remember, and I liked cameras better when you set the f-stop and the aperture. Sorry to be going into this stuff. A lot of you guys may not want to hear this. You might want to hear the news, but a lot of these other cameras, it was just so much better. And it's a lot easier when you have switches. Instead of you have to switch something on, use your battery, and sit there pressing buttons, and then go into this menu, into that menu. I don't know how many 15 15 menus and go and switching the buttons and then a sub menu and all. I mean, if you're trying to get a fast picture, forget it, you know, because you're going to be sitting there for 10 minutes pressing a whole bunch of buttons going into crap, you know. And by that time, whatever you wanted to take a picture of, the light has changed, the animal's not sitting in a good position anymore, and you know, animals are difficult anyway, or children or whatever. It's just a huge mess. Of course, you can put it on automatic, and I guess that's the solution anyway. So what's the point in having all these massive amounts of setting? I don't even understand all of this stuff, you know, not at all. And makes me feel like a dummy. Makes you feel like you have to take 2 months of classes just to figure out what the heck all these buttons mean and all this sort of stuff. Anyway, lots of this technology stuff. But I don't know, what's the point? Who has all this time? You know, it's different when you're like some kid in high school, maybe, and you just have some homework. I don't know, which I never did most of the time anyway. You could sit around there and tinker around with stuff, and with all your buddies, and learn a little bit here and there. You could learn how to be a rock star or expert hacker on a computer or all that. But who has the time now? You got to go out and make a living. So let me get into the news instead of talking about this kind of stuff. Actually, a beautiful morning today. Did I say it was May 6th, 2025, or did I? No. Anyway, it's so I was watching some things on Telegram, and according to RT, the number of millionaires in Ukraine, what they said, it has increased by 59%. And then I saw some other report that somebody else put on a different site, and they said 61%. So it was already put out that the largest buyers of the luxury Rolls Royce by far is Ukraine. And you think about all of these hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars going into Ukraine from all over the place, and Zelensky going on begging tours all over. Oh, we need billions more. You give him, how many times do I have to keep expressing this on my channel? And other people say this too. You know, it doesn't really matter how much money you give to Ukraine. It's never enough. You got to just keep on shoveling hundreds and hundreds of billions of dollars. And then, you know, Donald Trump was out there saying how stupid people are for doing this. And now he's doing it. He's doing that. It's like, and then Zelensky, I watched a video this morning. I didn't watch, I was listening most of the time to Alex Christoforo, you know, from the Duran. You know, he has his own private stuff, and it's always a lot of good stuff too. He's a lot more gentle than I am, apparently, in his, you know, but he puts up, you know, some quotes like he was saying some of the, you know, it was weird because I think it said that it was one day, but it's actually, he's talking about this on Sunday. So I think when I was reporting the stuff, so I don't know why. Maybe he's having trouble too with uploading things onto YouTube where it takes 12 and 14 hours or whatever. I don't really know, but it said it was up for one day when he's talking about news of 2 days ago, when he probably made the video. He said it was Sunday, and here, this is Tuesday. So it went up, what is it, maybe yesterday? I don't know. I don't know exactly the time it put up, but anyway, he's talking about a lot of this stuff too. Some of the quotes from Maria Zakharova, you know, that I also put up, and Medvedev, and who was this guy? I just mentioned this General Keane or whatever. He was saying that Putin is threatening Ukraine with nuclear weapons, something if they bomb the parade. And it's like, what? Putin never said any. I don't think he's ever said anything about this. You know, nothing whatsoever. It was Medvedev and maybe some other people, let alone saying nuclear weapons. So these guys, it's very much like Zelensky or a lot of the Democrats in the United States as well. You know, they want to, if they don't find any news that they want to report to demonize somebody, they make it up. They make up a lot of fake stuff. It's terrible. But anyway, I was talking about all these millionaires being created in Ukraine, and I guess there was they said 17,000 new millionaires in Ukraine over the past year. 17,000 new millionaires. So it's like, here I'm talking about Zelensky and even this big sucking sound of these billions and billions flowing into Ukraine, and you know, apparently maybe not so much, even though lots of it is going right into Zelensky's bank account. That's pretty obvious. Some people make him out to be the richest man in the world right now, but I would project that he's got at least $100 billion at least, because he was at one time, I think they were, he wasn't even a billionaire, and then within less than a year, they said that he had 2.5 billion. That was this was quite a while ago, and then less than a year later, he had $5 billion, and then people started being really quiet, and then it was like a $10 billion, and I'm talking about 2 years ago. That's even before huge amounts of money started flowing in there. But then like I mentioned before about these Pandora Papers and Panama Papers, and that a lot of these rich people, like celebrities and sports stars and politicians, that they have far, far more money parked away somewhere than they even admitted. And Vladimir Putin just put out, what was that, a week ago? I already reported that as well, that the higher officials or higher people in Ukraine have got vast sums of money parked away in mostly in like a lot of the Western financial institutions, So a lot of times he said they have to be friendly because maybe Putin is making, he's alluding to the fact that the West has frozen, lots of investment money, legal money of the Russians in all these banks and institutions. Excuse me, I got to sneeze. Pardon me. That's what Hillary Clinton said, I guess, to Donald Trump when they were running in the first election. Pardon me. But anyway, so, and there was another time, I guess, long before this special military operation, and there were still billions flowing into Ukraine at that time, but it was Yatsenyuk. He was made, I guess, the prime minister at that time under Petro Poroshenko, and he was just a middle-class guy, I don't know, maybe he had just like money like me, which is just or you out there, just regular people possibly. And then after, and he was the guy that what's her name, Victoria Nuland, was saying that she's going to make the prime minister, because actually, it's pretty well known, and it was that time it was an Obama and Biden, when a lot of people were saying that Biden was the leader of Ukraine. So that's a big project of Joe Biden anyway, not to mention the fact that he was president afterwards and running, still probably had a lot to say about that. And Biden even was bragging about it, how he decided a lot of time on who held what offices and things like that in Ukraine. But anyway, Yatsenyuk, Victoria Nuland, they have this leaked telephone call. She was talking to the ambassador, I guess, of Ukraine, of deciding on who the United States is going to put in various offices in Ukraine, make this guy this prime minister and this guy that and all that. And, and Biden saying, well, get rid of this guy and do that. And so anyway, it's an independent sovereign nation. But anyhow, let me face this other way. Somebody's coming with a dog behind me. And, but anyway, Yatsenyuk, he retired in the United States as a billionaire. And this was long before that money came in. So this guy, he made $1 billion within a couple of years. $1 billion. I don't know, maybe he had 2 billion. He's a billionaire. That's a very well-known fact. Huge buildings on his large estate, swimming pool and all that, somewhere on the East Coast. I don't know if it was in North Carolina or South Carolina or something like that. But anyway, that's a fact. And everybody knows Zelensky's got properties. He probably doesn't even know how many houses he's got. And he's got businesses, wineries, and he owns, I've already talked about this stuff, but fabulously rich person. He's, you can hear about even businesses that rival a lot of times what Elon Musk has. So anyway, so enough of these multi-billionaires and Rolls Royces and all this kind of stuff, but there's no corruption in Ukraine, as Zelensky says, and he can only afford a green t-shirt. Well, he's got some black t-shirts too. We've seen some black sweatshirts. So yeah, probably designer made. Okay, Israel is now closer to deciding, and some have already decided, to have a full conquest of Gaza, to take over the entire thing. They've already said they're going to divide it up into 4 areas, and then 4 areas which are virtually isolated from each other, and you have to get their permission to go from one area to the next. They already have that in the West Bank, checkpoints and things like that all over the place. Very, very, very horrible conditions that these people do to the Palestinians, and some Palestinians, it's known because of Israel's constant attacks and bombings. Some people have rebuilt their houses 4 times, and a lot of time when they want to take over some area or just pester somebody, they say, oh, you don't have a permit, and they bulldoze over their houses and things. A lot of time what was happening in Jerusalem, at one time it was kind of split, that it was like East Jerusalem and West Jerusalem, and a lot of time what a very popular thing was that if there were areas, and then the Israelis wanted to expand their part of Jerusalem, so what they would start to do, they would maybe get an apartment, or somebody move in or take over or kill somebody, get an apartment, and in some building where there's Palestinians, and then they would take sledgehammers and knock out the walls of their apartment, because the next apartment was a Palestinian, and then they would go through and sit in the room and take over the apartment and say, this is ours now. And they do that all the time anyway, with lands and all sorts of stuff, or they burn the olive trees, the source of income of people, and this is just standard procedure. And I've seen videos of things, very, very humiliating and bad things, and then they wonder, well, why is there a Hamas? And now you could just say anything you can think of that's possibly humiliating and terrible. The Israelis are doing it. Everybody knows this, and a lot of these governments, and if you in the West, if you are protesting about what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, they lock you up, they beat you up, and I don't know. I'm just speechless. I don't even know what to say about these people and what the heck is going on. So but anyway, they're calling up lots of reserves, I guess, recently. Tens of thousands of reserves. I thought they were already mobilized that for all their other wars, and but a lot of people they're saying in Gaza, but I think these people are being told, all these reservists they're calling up, they could be sent to Lebanon or some other fronts. And as you know, there was I guess one bomb, and I think some people actually died when Yemen sent a bomb. I think maybe the amount of people that the Houthis have actually killed in the entire thing is like 11, and I don't think Israel has yet. Well, now they have, but before that, I don't think Israel has ever bombed that. But the Houthis are doing this because of what Israel is doing to the Palestinians, and these are very highly moralistic people. I say these Houthis, and they try not to take any lives at all. And of course, Donald Trump doesn't have anything against killing them, but he wants to stop the killing. Donald Trump, he's an enigma. I can't understand the guy. And I was going to talk about him, like he's saying exaggerations and complete outright lies and things like that. And but Donald Trump has done a lot of good things, so that's why I kind of think, it kind of bothers you to be telling about all the nasty things that Donald Trump does, because he's done a lot of good things too, and he's a very accomplished person, and yeah, like I said, very incredible things, and some things I don't know. You'd have to say, well, he's beyond a doubt, he's radical and he's unstable, and a lot of time he's just full of words and he doesn't back it up with action. Anyway, you can talk about him a lot of you can't figure the guy out for most things anyway. So it's just like he's out to stop this war, but now he's fully, undeniably on the side of Ukraine. If he maybe was all along, maybe he was, because a lot of the things that he's actually apparently trying to reestablish relations with Russia, and even the people, his MAGA people, are now questioning Donald Trump. That does he really want to end this war, or what is going on now? Because he's supplying weapons to, and I think it was Alex Cristoforo in the video I was watching this morning. He's talking about, but I think he said that he's believing a lot of these planes are coming from Netherlands, and I'm sure some of them are. They're definitely all these countries are getting together, getting these F-16s to give to Ukraine. But I think it was actually Denmark. I'm not positive, or maybe Denmark has already given all their F-16s to Ukraine and all their lots of weapons. It's sort of like a lot of countries, they virtually gave everything to Ukraine. And of course, Ukraine said it's still not enough. Anyway, so a big offensive. Who knows when this is going to happen? This big offensive against the people of Gaza. And obviously, they want ethnic cleansing. Donald Trump is actually, he's come right out and he has said that he is for ethnic cleansing. He wants all the Palestinians or all the Gazans out of that area. He wants to kick them out. He wants to make a luxury resort for rich people where Gaza is at right now. So, but he's a good guy. It's just really strange. And they can come back if they want to, as long as they cough up a couple million to buy a small apartment somewhere and then pay the monthly fees of whatever that might be, you know, for their luxury one-room condominium for their family of 8, all to live in one room. Oh boy. So this morning I saw an article. It's titled, "Is Trump selling out to Ukraine?" Well, gee, do you really think so? Or is he selling out? I don't really know what the deal is. It's you got to keep one move after the other. You got to say, well, wait and see what's going to happen next. What is Trump going to do now? And you know, of course, he's threatening Russia with big sanctions. I guess he's got a whole list. He hasn't said what they are yet, but he said he's got a huge list of sanctions. And like, well, what is Russia doing? What, you know, Russia says, let's make a deal. Let's make a deal. And Ukraine. Well, you guys have been watching the news. You've watched the videos. It just doesn't make any sense anyway. Anyway, the article mentions Trump's election remarks about stopping the war, you know, and he never said how. Before I may take office, I'm going to stop the war. In 24 hours, I'm going to stop the war. By the 20th of April, I'm going to stop the war. 100 days, I'm going to stop, you know. And, you know, Trump is doing everything possible, obviously, to keep the war going as well. You know, and he's accusing Russia of doing that, or Ukraine. But he's doing everything possible to keep the war going. I mean, you know, it's like giving Ukraine, what, $310 million? Apparently that was from Biden, and it hadn't gone through, even though Biden's, I think his $1.2 billion that he is sending to Ukraine is still going through. And it's not just, you know, that kind of money in weapons. They also send a huge amount of money, and I guess pretty much all the pensions of all the old people in Ukraine are paid by the United States taxpayer. You know, even though a lot of people in the United States, maybe their pensions have stopped. And of course, Elon Musk got rid of a lot of that fraud. But it makes you really wonder, if that's true, then why is the debt continually going up in the United States when they're saving all this money? So I guess Trump is not really that good of a money manager, you know, because he's still sending money in all kinds of other places. So stop the money going here and send it over there instead. And yeah, it's like I said, Marjorie Taylor Greene has been talking about, you know, what the heck are we doing here? You know, she's a MAGA person. So, and I have something more to say about her soon. Okay. He said, if I were president, this war would have never started. And now he's threatening a war against Iran. He's already virtually, you can't start a war with Yemen because they don't have the capacity to hold a war. But if they did, he would have started a war. It would be called starting a war with Yemen. And it's even very possible that Yemen can start bombing America. Actually, they've made some attacks on American ships already, and no real damage. They don't really have the capacity to do that much damage to the United States. So, but anyway, he was saying starting a war with Russia is stupid, and I don't know what, that's what I said, I don't know what it is, but he's bragging about the fact that he sent weapons to Ukraine against Russia. So yet he's talking about some of these people sending weapons to Ukraine, and it doesn't help stop the war, but yet Trump brags about him sending javelins and all that for Ukrainians to use to attack the Russians. And now he okayed all of this money and equipment, I guess, and apparently F-16s going to Ukraine for them to fight the Russians. But he said this war would have never started if he was the president, but yet he's doing things to keep the war going, and it's just like Zelensky. Zelensky, he didn't actually start the war, but he wants it to keep going, and he's doing everything possible to keep the war going, and he's shoveling literally hundreds of thousands of his own people, to the front to die. Pizza boys and everything else. People, even when they're mobilizing them, they die of a heart attack. And that pizza boy, I don't know, he's probably like 16 or 17 years old. And actually, like I said, and trust me on this, there are children that have been 17 years old that they've been sending there ever since the beginning of that. And it's very much like I've witnessed things with my own eyes. I've seen 17-year-olds in the United States Army. And if you call it conscription or not, I've seen 17-year-olds in men prisons, and I've seen 14-year-olds in the university, very intelligent people. So it's like, I guess they don't discriminate against age, unless you're old, then they'll discriminate against you. So anyway, and even like skin color and all that. When we had, I was working in a prison once, and that's what I said. That's why I know that I've seen people. Matter of fact, they probably went in when they were 16 years old. I think there's one guy, he was like killing cows and things when he was young. I don't know if he would slit their throats and stuff like that. And then there was another guy, he was in a different pod, but in the same unit, that I think I mentioned this before. But anyway, that guy and the young guy and the other guy, he was, how old was he back? I don't have any idea. Sometimes I can get ages wrong, but this guy was older, maybe 5 years, whatever. And he and the young guy, who might have been like 15 at the time, whatever, he couldn't drive, but the other guy could drive. They wanted to get the mother's car, and the mother said no, that she's not going to do that. So they killed her. The young guy and this other guy, they killed his mother to get the car keys so that they could drive the car, I guess. And I think that's what actually put the young guy and the other guy in prison. But the other guy was a nasty guy anyways, really nasty in prison, doing all sorts of things and practicing his martial arts and all that sort of stuff, threatening us correctional officers, things like that. But nothing. Okay. But so I'm just trying to say that there is young people in that war, and of course there was footage, and it looked like there was like American soldiers when they were, it was at the beginning of this thing, and that was at the very beginning, right after the conflict started, and the United States was considering, should we send troops there to fight against the Russians or not, and be really stupid. And but at that time, some Americans put up some videos, and I think the title was "We're Already Here." So they were showing themselves in Ukraine. They had these nice, clean, beautiful uniforms, the camouflage things, and smiling and having a good time, a girl or two and some young guys, and saying we're already here in Ukraine. So, and that was at the beginning. Maybe they pulled those ones back, but even when the conflict started, there is tapes of Americans, and I told you guys about that, and it's like you're sitting there with your eyes wide open, you can't believe it, and it's when Russia dropped some bomb in some pizza hotel area thing where there was a big meeting going on, and part of it damaged the part where the enlisted guys were at, and Americans with their 101st Airborne tattoos on and all that, and blah blah blah, talking American English. And of course, I think right before that is when America said that they had sent 101st Airborne to Romania, and a month later there they are in Ukraine. Well, surprise, Yeah. I don't know. Like I said, when I was in the military, and then we had people in my unit, I was in the 8th Infantry Division in military intelligence and all, and then, they came and they said they were deep into Iraq long before Desert Storm started. So, and they were storming bunkers and all sorts of stuff. So a lot of stuff you hear, there's just a bunch of BS. Everything is kept quiet and all that. And all that. And anyway. Maybe people don't believe it anyhow. Anyway, Trump said that Obama sent blankets and he sent javelins, but he wants to stop the war. And I don't know if he is sending any new F-16s. Some people are saying that he is, and that, I don't know, but it's supposed to be there was supposed to be a lot more, and I don't know how many F-16s actually got over there, how many were shot down, by whom and by whom. Some say Ukraine shot down their own, and that they're kind of scared of the Patriot system thing. And of course, Trump is also sending Patriots from Israel to Ukraine. So he's sending a lot of weapons to Ukraine, and money's worth of weapons and ammunition and things like that. So it's never really stopped. So even before Joe Biden's weapons and money shipments have stopped, Trump is already sending them and signing them off. So it's never stopped. It's never stopped from the United States. And Zelensky was so happy. Alex Christoforo even mentioned that too, that Zelensky saying what a fantastic 15-minute meeting he had with Donald Trump in the Vatican, and he said in so many words that he's won Donald Trump over, and that's what I guess why the article said is Trump selling out. And a lot of the MAGA people in the United States are kind of confused with what's going on here now. Marjorie Taylor Greene, I'll get to that in 1 second here. But I don't know. It seems to me a lot of times Trump doesn't really know what he's doing. It's like he talks about other people being incompetent, but there's a lot of information that shows Donald Trump is incompetent as well in so many different ways. The left hand does something that the right hand doesn't know, and then he does something completely different and contradictory a week later. Anyway, and then he comes and lies and things and says, This is great. We're making $2 billion a day. And China is begging for a deal. China's begging for a deal. China comes out and says, we're not begging for a deal. So anyway, even though if China is actually losing something, of course the United States is also losing something. Trump will never admit it, I guess. Everything's great. I got the greatest economy that the world has ever seen in all of history. Warp speed, the vaccines are fabulous. Okay, Trump is, I said the Patriot system, and he's also sending soldiers. Trump is sending soldiers to Ukraine. Did I say that? Yes. Did I say that? Yes, Trump is sending American soldiers to Ukraine. I'm not saying big hordes of them. And even something that Marjorie Taylor Greene said, she said, why are we occupying Ukraine now? Because Donald Trump said they need some kind of protection when he's going to be doing this mineral deal that said it's going to take many, 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 many years before the United States sees one penny. They're going to be investing huge sums of money into that. And she says, why are we occupying Ukraine now? Because Trump has got to send some protection. He said so himself, but it's probably not going to be those people. It's probably going to be, I am guessing it's going to be Blackwater, So in other words, Trump is, in that way. But of course he's got to send, since he's sending HIMARS and Patriots, those are American soldiers that are going to be firing things off for Ukraine, and they already are, and they're firing into Russian civilian areas knowingly. Oh, but shh, don't pay any attention to that man behind the thing. Okay. The article I was reading said there's a section titled MAGA starting to suspect something. And of course it's mostly Marjorie Taylor Greene. That article, it's a little bit light on this criticism, and Marjorie Taylor Greene is not saying Trump, but she's said that she was elected for certain mandates, and now they're betraying that in other articles, and very, very long. She had some very long tweets. I didn't, I'm not going to write it all down. The whole thing is full of all sorts of things. I don't think she mentioned Trump, but yes, I mentioned some things about that in the last 2 videos that I made. So I don't know where some of these there's a couple of nicely dressed ladies going this way. Why would some office looking girls be, I guess there's a turn over there, but I don't know. Okay. In like an industrial area. Anyway, she indirectly said Trump is going back on his promises. Oh no! Oh really? And she's also talking about Israel. Like what is the United States doing there? And she's, at least she's still not sold out. Donald Trump is hook, line, and sinker. He is the most obedient servant of Israel that you could ever imagine. Maybe he is not yet bombed Iran, It looks like he's working his way up to that. Maybe he's trying to find a way and create some kind of a situation where it looks like he's justified to bomb Iran for Israel. And I'm sort of thinking maybe that is maybe that was the promise that put him into the presidency. And I have no doubt in my mind whatsoever that his entrance into the presidency of the United States was done via Israel, because the deep state hates Donald Trump, and Israel is actually, even though they have connections with the deep state, they are not the deep state. And I think they're the ones that put him over the top. And Israel already admits they virtually own the whole United States Congress and government, I guess you would say, the prosecutors, all that. And even if George Soros, he directly owns prosecutors, and they're following his mandate, of course, and it's very obvious. Everybody knows, it's been talked about, that he's letting all the criminals out on the street, and Joe Biden, of course, was letting a free-for-all. Everybody get to come into the United States, no matter who they are. They just opened up the borders and let everybody just flood on in. A lot of them are definitely criminals. There's rapists and robbers and murderers and everything. And Donald Trump is trying to round up most of these people. And the Democrats, of course, are protesting against this. People that have done rapes and murders. And Trump is trying to get rid of them, send them to El Salvador and things. And the Democrats say, no, let them go free in America. You know, let them continue to rape and pillage and kill Americans, and maybe even set off a few bombs. And I don't know, the Democrats are, I mean, this is really absolutely true. I mean, not that they say that, but these people are murderers, and the Democrats want them on the streets, and they want them to go free. Wow. It's like, what is really going on here? You know? So, anyway, what else about her? I don't know. There's not really, she's just against that thing too. Israel and the U.S., they conducted a big, massive bombing raid against Yemen yesterday, starting, very soon after that bomb, got through the U.S. defenses and all that, and hit a place in the airport in Israel. And I think some people died, I said. And but anyway, so Israel wasted no time, and they joined with the United States. And I believe I heard it was like 30 airplanes. I assume mostly all bombers, and they were bombing. I guess they did a huge, massive destruction on one of the major port cities of Yemen. I don't know how many people died. I don't know if Yemen really puts that out. I know some have definitely died. I know there was, of course, a lot of injuries. I heard about that, but they didn't specify the full number yet. And of course, as time goes by over the next days, a lot of these people that are injured, of course, they're going to be dying too. And, but Donald Trump wants to stop the killing. So, okay, 30 planes. And there's two policy bits that was put out by his administration. Trump signed an order to stop the gain-of-function research labs funding. Oh, well, yeah, really? Well, guess what? Obama did as well. And Obama actually, at least he was successful to stop all of that stuff going on in the United States. That's when it went to Wuhan lab and Ukraine and all these other places to do gain-of-function researches all over the place. And Fauci saying, oh, we're not doing that. That's absolutely not true. And that's one reason why they want to put Fauci in prison, because he fully knew that they were doing it. He's the one that okayed it. He's the one that did it all, that was making sure that it was happening. And then he goes up there and lies to the American people, lies to Congress, and you're not supposed to do that. I guess that's called perjury. So he should go to prison. And that's obvious why Joe Biden gave him a blanket pardon, that Fauci will be absolved from all crimes that he'd ever done. So even though he was not being accused of any crimes at that time, and I guess Tulsi Gabbard obviously Rand Paul, he knew all this stuff at the very beginning and was on Fauci over and over again. But yet, so Fauci is a very bad guy, and they attribute over 200,000 deaths to Anthony Fauci. But he's right up there with Zelensky, I guess. I don't know how many. Some people put Zelensky, the amount of people he sent to their certain death. I think some even have it up to over 1 million people that he has made sure that that got massacred at the front lines, shoveling up them into the meat grinder to die. for certain deaths, snapping them up off the streets. And, Fauci, a lot of this stuff, and there's things I can't say because YouTube, doesn't like certain things to talk about it. And matter of fact, I'm wondering, I told you guys, how it takes, at least half a day a lot of times to load up these videos, even if I'm doing them in the morning. And I'm wondering if it's maybe because of some of the words that I say on here, because I'm looking at like Alex Cristoforo, and he says Nazi. He doesn't say that word, and even Jimmy Dore, there's certain words that he doesn't say either. And but he's saying they will be demonetized or something. That was what Jimmy Dore said, and Jimmy Dore tells a lot of truth as well. But as you know, YouTube, there's certain aspects of truth that they do not want anybody to ever know. And again, I don't want to actually say that all the people at YouTube are these dastardly peoples that are against the truth and against freedom of speech and all that sort of thing, because a lot of those people are probably very good people that work at YouTube and Google. And but I think a lot of the people on the very top, these are people that they have a certain agenda that they want to support, and they're firmly in bed with a lot of people like Soros and Bill Gates and all, whoever is cruel, because that's the ones that have the money, the people that are willing to walk over corpses. That's what the Germans say, that if you if you're not able to walk over corpses, you're not going to reach to become the cream that floats to the top. So you have to be able to do be a really, really dastardly person walking over corpses. It's like, not be against murders and rapes and all sorts of like pedophiles and things like that. Some of but I don't know, a lot of us, those of you that watch this channel, we don't support that. And I'm really grateful that there are at least some people. I get like maybe 50 people that regularly watch my videos within the first maybe 2 days, and sometimes it's more. And oh, by the way, what am I? I'm 42 minutes in. Push that like button, and if you haven't subscribed, subscribe. I'm going to be probably deleted at some point in time. I'm gonna make some kind of mistakes. Some people, they get taken down, not just demonetized, but oh, they've got a cat up there. Somebody out with a walk with their cat, maybe. But anyway, some people, they just take them down, even though. And with me, it was weird. They had too many strikes, even though I had never had any. I mean, at that time, I had gotten strikes and I was taken down already once before. But one time, they took me down and they said too many strikes, and I said, but I don't have any strikes. So all of a sudden, all at one time, 3 strikes, you're out. And I had to wait. I think it was I don't know if it was many weeks or weeks or whatever. Anyway, then I don't know if my probation, it might be running out right now. I don't know, because I had like a 3-month probation. If I got one more strike, I'm gone permanently. But like I said, I think I'm okay now. I'm watching this cat. I thought it was hunting, but maybe it's somebody with a dog. So the cat is laying down. Too bad I don't have any food. Anyway, oh, I saw that in Alex Cristoforo. He feeds cats too. He calls it the bag that he was using, the cat food, is called Catisfaction. Over here, it's the same thing, but they call it Dreamies. Oh, why this guy's going so slow here? I should put him on camera to embarrass him. Anyway, so gain of function. Okay, that was one policy thing that the Trump administration put out. There was 2 I said that was going to come out. It's not really a policy thing, but it's some like admissions and things. And one was the Treasury Secretary Besant. He admitted that Trump signing this mineral deal was actually aimed to go against Russia, to get leverage against Russia. And what kind of leverage? But I tell you what, what do you think Russia thinks about that? What the heck? What leverage? Russia even said, we'll make a deal with you. You can come and do some of, because Russia does not develop their rare earth minerals, really. They have a lot and they don't really develop them. And I don't know, they probably don't have the means. And the strange thing is, neither does the United States, because China has the means. China is by far the best at developing these rare earth minerals. And I don't know, over 90 some odd % of the rare earth minerals in the world, they're coming from China. China's the one that does it all. They have all the technology to do it. The United States doesn't. Russia doesn't. Of course, Russia can obviously get this technology. Maybe the United States can too. I don't know. Donald Trump thinks that the United States has the ability to do anything. And very, very quickly. And a lot of time he will start telling everybody that they did and they do, and and most of the stuff turns out to be real lies and exaggerations. That's just too bad about Trump, that he's like that. Like I said, he's got some good things. He's a very accomplished guy and all that, but he's got this tremendous penchant for lying and exaggerating. And just like he said that he is the one that defeated ISIS, when it was and a lot of people, they know this, and this is absolutely true, that the United States was defeated. They were in league with ISIS, and the United States was ISIS. The United States, that was their proxy military in Syria, and Russia and the Syrian army defeated ISIS. They defeated the United States, basically, just like what's going on right now, and Russia admits it. It is a war now in Ukraine. It is a war. Basically, it's a proxy war. And so many officials in the United States have admitted that it's a proxy war, that the United States is going against Russia, but they're using Ukraine as a proxy. So Donald Trump coming up with this stuff when it's actually the truth is the complete the complete opposite of that, It's, and I was saying that it was Israel and the United States, behind ISIS, but also Great Britain. And Great Britain is always there. Whenever the United States is involved, Great Britain is always there too. So, some kind of workers or something. Illegal immigrants getting shuffled in. Maybe that's one of those white vans. Maybe that's one of those white vans at Ukraine. Maybe they're recruits going to the front. Just kidding. Okay, so that anyway, the this resource deal, and I already mentioned the fact that to get leverage against the United States, and I was thinking, well, what Russia, what but actually, what he said actually is true. It's because the United States is going to send troops. They're going to send troops along with these people that are supposedly going to mine some of these rare earth minerals, which includes even aluminum, which is not a rare earth mineral, and things like that. So the United States, that's actually maybe a sneaky way for the United States to send more troops. And of course, you know how these things start. It's probably going to be like Blackwater, I'm just guessing, a private military organization. And then of course it's going to start, again sending United States troops. I'm just guessing. And it opens up the door for Ukraine to make it look like Russia is attacking them, bombing them, or things. Anything can happen. And I'm just having you guys be aware of that. So this might be happening months down the road. Russia is bombing the American mining, blah, 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 when it turns out it's actually going to be Ukraine. I don't know. Russia's got to really watch, and maybe they don't have that many satellites there. The United States has satellites, but even if it was, it's sort of like, how many times has Israel bombed and killed United States service members, or even just innocent civilians? Many, many times. And the United States always looks the other way. President Johnson, he is on record, when, like I was mentioning yesterday, the USS Liberty in 1967, when Israel was bombing that American ship. It was a surveillance ship, actually a spy ship, but it was just monitoring the war between Israel and probably on the side of Israel, and Israel bombed it to try to make it look like Egypt did it, and the United States was sending a nuclear bomb, and it was just minutes away from dropping a nuclear bomb on Cairo, minutes away. And one reason why that was turned off is because the distress signal put out by the USS Liberty was also intercepted by the Russians. And the Russians, they had a submarine in the area that intercepted that, and then they were heading in that direction. So I guess that is the main reason why the United States called the bomber back. I don't know if it was like the 7th Navy or whatever, and I believe that that bomber took off from an aircraft carrier that was, who was in charge of that was John McCain's father, who was an admiral during that time. And of course, that's why John McCain got in, even though he was at the bottom of his class, and he'd even made a mistake once. So he's on a aircraft carrier, and to be cool, I guess what they could do is you can pre-flood the engines of a lot of the aircrafts. I don't know which aircraft it was, but you could pre-flood it, and then you switch on the engine, and at the back of the tailpipe, or the exhaust of the aircraft, flames would shoot out, and it looked really cool. And so there was a plane behind him, and he ended up killing other American service members by pulling that little stunt. And of course it was covered up, and they transferred John McCain to some other ship. And then, as you know, he was captured. He was a prisoner of war, held by the North Vietnamese, and he was putting out broadcasts, telling American soldiers to surrender to North Korea and all that stuff. But of course it was under duress, and I guess that made him a big hero. Anyhow, I don't even, that's actually how it all goes. And he was treated very well. They even had a name for him. He had a luxury life while he was an informant, or he was trying to get American soldiers to surrender to the North Koreans at that time. So he was living in hotels and really living up high. I guess that is the word. And a lot of the American prisoners and a lot of American service members, they actually hated John McCain in those days because he was living in luxury as he was putting out radio broadcasts, against the United States. But then he came back, he was a big hero. And you can understand why that is. It looks like the American government is not necessarily for the American people or the American cause anyway. I don't know. It looks like it's even true today. So, anyway, Trump again came out. Anyway, I should mention the fact, that Marjorie Taylor Greene is wondering. Again, I already mentioned it earlier, but she said, "Why are we occupying Ukraine?" So, in other words, that tells you that you know for a fact that they're sending military there. Why would she say that? Okay. Trump came out and he said it was the United States that won World War II. Both world wars. I already said this. I didn't know that. I said it ahead of time. And that's in spite of the fact I put it out yesterday, and they were quotes. These are quotes from the President of the United States, Franklin Delano Roosevelt, at that time, as well as Winston Churchill, as well as many other people, that Russia defeated the Nazis. But Trump is insisting it was the Americans that did it. Basically he's saying that Franklin Delano Roosevelt was a liar, and Churchill are liars. We did it. I did it. I did it. Look at these hands. Look at these hands. Trump did it. I defeated ISIS later, because it doesn't work out that if I first defeated ISIS and then I went back in time and I killed all the Nazis. So no, I actually must have been back then when I was before I was even born. I defeated all the Nazis. Damn! Look at how great I am. Very strange thing about Trump. He does these things, these acts of charity for people. Like maybe some people that need some operation. It costs. Obviously how the American system works. It costs many hundreds of thousands of dollars, and nobody can really afford it unless you're a rich person. But I guess maybe Donald Trump, he footed the bill, or guess, for a lot of this time, and then he doesn't even want to be recognized for it, but then he wants to be, recognized for things he didn't do. It doesn't really make sense. But like I said, I can't understand Trump. Okay, keep going here. But a lot of Russian peoples and all that have come out, and it's very true. I think even maybe did Lukashenko say it as well, but it's very insulting for Donald Trump to try to take the credit away from the people, and so many people died. Like I said, one third of Belarus died. We're talking innocent civilians and babies, all sorts of them, and they were brutally murdered and massacred here. And even the Polish people or whatever, the Russians went and saved them, and now the Polish people are trying to, I don't know who they're saying it is, because they're being told to hate the Russians, and it's incredible. It's absolutely incredible. A lot of people, they refuse to go along with this, and they say that they know. There's even Polish people. There was, I think, something, was it yesterday or the day before, and there was an old guy, he was like 100 years old, and he was very grateful for the Russians for freeing him from a concentration camp or whatever, and very, very grateful. and Duda is sitting there, and he's got kind of an angry look on his face that that any Polish people would come out and give the credit to Russia because they defeated the Nazis. And it kind of shows you right there. I've been emphasizing this for a long time, and it shows that this Nazism has really taken over, in places. And you could think, like the Polish people, and a lot of them are even, they're pissed off about the Banderites, that they massacred a lot of Polish people too. And I guess the amount is around 3 million people, like 3 million, even though they had a bigger population than Belarus, because Belarus lost the largest portion of their people to the Nazis than any country in all of Europe. But it's as a numbers, Poland lost as many as the Belarusians, but Poland had a far bigger population, so they didn't lose 1/3 of their people, but they lost maybe, I don't know, maybe it's 1/5. I have no idea how many people. I don't know, maybe just 10%. So anyway, but they still lost a lot of people, and now they're trying to change history. And Alex Cristoforo even said that. I think he said that on the video I was saying to rewrite history. I think he was saying Donald Trump. Anyway, a lot of these people nowadays, they're trying to rewrite history. And I said, when there was some I don't know what it was, something about, maybe it was the anniversary of Hiroshima and all that, and you had European leaders over there, and maybe even some American ones over there in Japan, and they're trying to make everybody think that it was not the United States that dropped the nuclear bombs on Hiroshima and Nagasaki. They're trying to make everybody very, very slowly start to think that it was Russia that did it, that Russia, dropped the nuclear bombs or something like that. Very sick people, trying to change history that way, fooling everybody, and like they do that in Israel. There are a lot of tricks going on, and Israel at least has the decency to sit back and start laughing about how stupid everybody is in the West and how they're fooling everybody. And that's true. That's been on camera. They do that. A lot of them, a lot of the people in the government, they're laughing about how they trick the government of the United States, or maybe the government of the United States wants to be tricked, and they want to be shoveling billions and billions to Israel, billions. And what was it Zelensky said before he won Donald Trump over in the Vatican? If he won him over, maybe he had him before. Donald Trump was maybe always on the side, apparently based on his actions, but Ukraine said he wants at least the same deal that Israel gets, like $4 billion every single year, free of charge, no strings attached, as well as all sorts of other money, the secret money, which actually ends up to be much more than the $4 billion that Israel gets. And Zelensky said he wants at least that deal. It's just the American taxpayers' money. American people can suffer. They can have prices increasing and all that. That's no big deal. So let's keep going. Let's see. Anyway, just terrible insult that Trump is doing, taking, his bragging, because these people don't take that lightly over here. They really don't take that lightly. Of all of the people, the millions of people that have perished over here in very cruel ways. And I've mentioned a lot of that on here, on this videos, and I don't like to make my videos always be gloom and doom, but a lot of you, I guess one thing I should say to you is, when you're hearing a lot of these bad things, and you look that you're alive, and the sun is shining on you, and you're able to feed yourself and to feed your family, and your house is secure, it's not being bombed, and your children are not being, their heads getting smashed and things like that, is like what Israelis do and what the Nazis do. And all of the things that's going on, like in Kursk, they what do? They tie people up, throw them in the basement, and let them die of starvation. When what the Ukrainian Nazis were doing in Kursk, they find a bunch of dead bodies and things like that. People soiling themselves because you can't go to the bathroom, they can't do anything, they're just tied up until they die, and then it's rotten and stinking. And when the soldiers come, and lots of bad stuff like that, burying people alive. And anyway, but it's like I'm saying, if you guys, and you don't like to hear this sort of stuff, I don't like saying it. I don't like hearing any of things. I don't even like these bloody horror movies and things like that. it's just so much of sick stuff. But you have to look at it as like a yin and yang, when you know a lot of these evil things are going on, and you get to appreciate your own life, and what you do have and what you're living in, maybe some sort of a peace and freedom and things like that today. And I think a lot of the Russians know of what happened, and even Belarusians, of what happened in the past, and they want to preserve things as they are right now. They're not attacking anybody. They always get attacked by the West, and the West doesn't want you guys to know that. They want you to think that Russia's provoking them, but they're coming over here, and they want the rare earth minerals and all that. As a lot of the leaders of Russia have said, that the West goes to war for resources, as Donald Trump is even proving beyond any shadow of a doubt. And oil wars, pipeline wars, natural gas and oil and things like that. And that's mostly reasons why the wars have started. And Donald Trump he's on the side of Zelensky. He wants those rare earth minerals that may not even be there, by the way, and it's going to take a long time. And obviously they don't want to pay for them. They want them free, and that's one reason why Germany has joined Joe Biden, who's the real president of Ukraine all that time. And to try to, instead of having to pay very low cost of this natural gas to fuel their industries, they want it all free. They want the free nuclear energy. They want the Zaporozhye, which is what one of the promises was, to get that's why Germany closed down their nuclear power plants, because they thought they were going to get the nuclear energy from the Zaporozhye, as well as all the rare earth minerals. That's why they're pissed off at Donald Trump making these deals for the rare earth minerals, because that's what they wanted. Germany wanted the lithium that was in that Donbass area for their BMW electric cars and Mercedes and things. I mean, this stuff has all been put out, and it's very important things. Nobody's really emphasizing them so much. I do. I have to keep bringing them up to let you guys keep things in perspective. So, what else is going on? Okay, Trump is also, still working on the ethnic cleansing with Israel. And like a lot of these things that are put out by Israel, and there's people, and they're on television. They put these people on, and they're really popular, and people are clapping and all that they have to, take the entirety of the Gaza Strip. And obviously a lot of people believe that God gave it to them and things like that. I talked about that yesterday. And it's ethnic cleansing. Donald Trump is very much in favor of this. And if it takes genocide, well, so be it. If those people won't move, they're going to starve to death. They're going to cut off all the food and the medications and the water, and a lot of them are sitting there laughing, and they think that's really cool to do that to other human beings. Okay. Ben Hodges. Okay, that was the guy. I think I was already talking about that. He said it was perfectly fine and very acceptable that if Ukraine was bombing the May 9th parade, and some of the things he said, it has a little bit of significance. It's because, and also I have to actually mention that there was an awards ceremony, and it was in Ukraine. Where was that? It wasn't in Kiev. I'm not even sure where that was. It's the city anyway. But it was, they were getting an awards ceremony for another unit. I don't know, probably a Nazi unit. There's a lot of Nazi units, a lot of Nazis that are in different units. And but anyway, Russia bombed that. Some civilians died on that. When you think about that, and then you think about, Zelensky hinting, and other people, and they're all approving, and they're all urging that they bomb the May 9th parade, and there's reasons why they would want to do that. But you say, well, okay, well, Russia bombed that awards ceremony, so then why is it wrong if Ukraine bombs the May 9th celebrations? And maybe that's one reason why Vladimir Putin asked for a 3-day truce of no attacks and no bombings or anything on around May 9th for 3 days there. And Zelensky, of course, said no, he's not going to do that. And that's going to be kind of weird. And Russia said they're going to go through with it anyway. They're not going to be attacking. But if it was on that other time when there was a truce, and Russia had the orders that if, and it was a truce, and Zelensky supposedly agreed on that, but yet they kept attacking Russia anyway. I mean, not on as large a scale as they normally were doing, but the Russian troops were told that if they get attacked, they can attack back. And obviously that probably happened, and I don't know if that's going to happen on this 3-day truce. I don't think the Russians are going to sit there and let themselves get bombed by the Ukrainians with mostly it's all drones now. It's, you know, well, of course now Ukraine has got tens of thousands of new artillery shells from Germany, and of course a lot of the weapons, they just keep flowing in from the United States as well. So it's not like they have any shortage of any artillery shells. You know, their problem is manpower, and Zelensky said he needed 30,000 new recruits every month to replace all the ones that Russia is, you know, eliminating in the meat grinder. So anyway, so they're getting younger and younger ones. They now want to put women. Matter of fact, sometimes they are. I don't know which women. It's like, how do they decide which women they're gonna send there? Most of them, they're made medics and all that. And like I said, you know, they're getting very young guys there, and they're raiding parties. When people are partying, they send the recruiters there. Guys are half drunk, and they, you know, they're handcuffing them and whatever, and shoving them in the vans and sending them, you know, heck, you sober up, you wake up the next morning, and there you are. Anyway, okay. But there was other reports that they said Ukraine is considering that it would be unwise, on the other hand, to be bombing on that May 9th parade. And the reason that they gave is because of some of the leaders. And of course, if you bomb this parade, and they meant specifically Xi from China, because he's going to be there. And I guess they're saying we really don't want to make obvious enemies of China, you know. Yes. And I said that Ben Hodges said that, I already mentioned it, that Ben Hodges said that Putin is threatened to use nukes, which of course is a complete nonsense. I don't think Putin said anything about Ukraine's threat to bomb the parade, anything whatsoever, especially not about nukes. All this stuff just to make everybody think that he's a vicious and bloody criminal that wants to kill people with his bare hands. You know. Okay, that's it. That is it. Anyway, like I said, this is, how much is this now? 106 minutes. The other one yesterday, it took also huge amounts of time to upload, and I don't know. I tell you what, there was one place where the upload went really fast, and I was just sitting there thinking, why did it upload there? I went to other places in Minsk, and it was not uploading really fast either, even though that was in central Minsk. And I'm starting to think and realizing that they have a tower. There's some sort of a tower there, a media tower near that area. So maybe if I'm very close to that area, you know, I can get like a 1-hour video uploaded in like 15 or 20 minutes or something like that, as opposed to 12 hours. So I'm thinking that might have something to do with it. It might be something to do with algorithms, maybe some of the language I use. If I say I probably even ought to say it in this, NAZY or COVID or vaccine, something like that. And you know, a lot of these agendas that Google and all that is in favor of, and even though humanity is not, I don't know. So anyway, you guys know, it's very weird. You can have these. It's just so strange. Like I said, there's a lot of good people at Google. Obviously, there must be, and but then you have these people like Bill Gates and Soros. That these people are so very evil, and a lot of their goal is to reduce the world's population. You know, and they want to find ways somehow to just eliminate a lot of people. It's very weird. And I was talking in other videos in the past, and I was talking about this magic number that Bill Gates likes to mention, and it's 15%. It's like, what the heck? Why not just 25% or whatever like that? But he has this magic number of 15%. And then you look, and I was mentioning, you know, you get and normally I wasn't trying to say this, but now I'm thinking my ban is up. I was telling you that maybe I would mention this in the future, and of course I'm doing it right now, and before the video ends. But this 15%, one of the things, Bill Gates was giving these TED Talks, and he said if he's very effective, if he's very successful with the vaccines, they can reduce the world's population by 15%. I think, God, you know, I mean, he said this sort of thing twice. It's not the vaccines. Isn't that supposed to preserve people's life instead of reducing the population by 15%? And it's like, well, what does that mean? And some people were even suggesting that some of these things are supposed to impose sterility, and there's been vaccines that have made women sterile, that they cannot give birth anymore, and that's the United States purposefully used those, I guess, in Puerto Rico at some point in the past. There's a real dirty history of a lot of this stuff going on, you know, and they did it purposefully and knowingly. And what about old Billy Boy's vaccines in India that did tremendous damage, especially to girls apparently, and Africa, and that's why there's a lot of people in Africa that are very against. But it's very strange in Africa, you know, what the vaccines did there, and then yet the government invited him back again for something else. A big huge protests in Africa about that. But again, I'm trying to go. I'm you know, my mind just gets reminded about some of these other things. But I was talking about the 15%. So he said 15%. And then there was a whistleblower from Pfizer. Who knows, I might get taken down for this. But they said that out of a vat of 100, there's of these vaccines, only 15 of them are the real vaccine. And the other ones are some sort of placebos, or who knows what they put into those. Not necessarily placebos. I don't know. But anyway, so they said that if, you know, some really terrible fatal effects happen from those that take these vaccines, you don't want the numbers to be really high, because then nobody would take them. So anyways, if there's only 15% of them, and then the 15% of reducing, and that's at the very best, really said, you know, 15% reduction and 15% of the vaccines in a vat of 100. And I mean, that was a whistleblower supposedly from Pfizer putting that out, and all that. Like I said, who knows? Let's see if this video gets uploaded. Probably going to take 12 hours. A lot of cats over there. Maybe if I walk to, I don't know, I like these cats, and I always forget to bring food. I wouldn't have enough food for all of these guys here anyway. But I'll just walk over here this way. They're looking at me suspicious already. There's one over there, or maybe two, I don't know. And then there's three, oh, four. There's four of them over here. Stray cat strut, huh? Black and orange stray cat sitting on a fence. Ain't got enough dough to pay the rent. I'm flat broke, but I don't care. Strut right by with my tail in the air. Look at some black furry cats. Oh, look at that tiger cat. We have a cat very much like that. I want to go over there, but I don't want to spook him. Matter of fact, I got a black cat. His name is Spooky. So I don't want to go spook these cats. So anyway, that's it for a video. Hope you guys liked it. And make sure, again, you push the like button if you haven't. Or don't push it a second time, because then that eliminates it. Gosh, look at, there's another cat over there. Another black cat. Love black cats. So anyway, yeah, make sure that it says like, and make sure you subscribe if you haven't already. And I'll try to keep coming out with these if I don't get deleted, which that might happen. So anyway, thanks for joining me, and I'll see you on the next one. This one might not be uploaded for many hours. I don't know. Okay, so thanks again. Bye-bye.